Welcome to another travel product review. Today we're going to review Zoom Miami's general admission ticket. And the thing about our reviews is they're all favorable. And we're going to look at the pictures, the text, and some of the negative reviews, and hopefully this information helps you make a decision in purchasing this product. And before we get started, we're going to put a 10-minute timer on there. We're not going to go past 10 minutes. So let me go ahead and start that countdown right now. All right, let's get started. So the first thing I do when I look at any product on the website is I look at the name and I say Zoom Miami General Admission Ticket. And so the activity provider is also what I'm looking for, because sometimes you want to see if that matches and you just want to know who's providing that activity. And in this case, it's Zoom Miami, it's Zoom Miami's entry ticket. And then the next thing I want to do is kind of just look at the pictures to see if it matches what we are interested in taking. So the first thing is they immediately go to the feeding of the giraffes. It's a fun activity to do. And then there is this cool little cave that kids can go into, and there you can see alligators from a different vantage point, and flamingos, more alligators, another little cove, a little way to get closer, an eagle. This is a little little pedal thing. It's something to do, especially because Zoo Miami is pretty big, and these are nice to do so that way the kids don't get tired walking around. And they definitely have some areas to play. There's a water thing in the summer. Now, the only thing is, I always, when I look at like any general admission, I like to see what the entrance looked like. So my only suggestion, if you're a vendor and you're posting your other products, is just put a picture of the entrance so you have an idea what it looks like. And then I'm sure that there's so many things to do, it's kind of hard to take pictures and show everything. And that's something that you would have to consider. And then the other thing is kind of go down here, and before I look at the price, I just like to look at free cancellation, reserve now, valid 1 day, skip the line ticket, and wheelchair accessible. And I've been saying this on a lot of products, and this is no complaint to any of the vendors, but when they say wheelchair accessible, I like to see what that looks like. And I'm sure with the zoo, it just, you get the wheelchair, it has a wheelchair entrance and you get to go in. But some other products, I always like to see a picture of them. Now the next thing I'm looking for is the check availability. And when I look at the availability, I'm looking for two things. One, I'm looking to see if there's a price difference between the weekday, weekend, if there's any price difference. And then I'm also looking to see if they have different prices for different age groups. So 3 to 12 is a price, infant, so I'm sure infant's free. And let's go ahead and check. And it's $24.56 for adult, and you save a couple dollars when it being a child. And then admission only. And then this also will give you if there's some other packages that goes on there. So you can see that when you gonna just click through. So sometimes when you land on this listing, you just want to click and see what else is available. The next part I like to look at is the highlights. Feed a giraffe at our Samburu feeding station. You saw that in the picture. Marvel at the animals that call Florida home in our Florida Missions Everglades exhibit, and check out more than 1,200 species of plants, trees, and grounds. Now there's a little bit more in there, and I think those highlights should be a little bit more descriptive, because there's so much more to do at Zoom Miami than what's listed there. And now I just want to, this description, I know some longer descriptions, but if we're a visitor to the website, sometimes you just want to highlight some things, and you may not want to repeat yourself in the description, even though it's very natural to do when you're writing a description for these things. And then I'm going to quickly read through it. Zoom Miami is the ideal place for individual, couple, and entire family to spend a day. As a matter of fact, visitors can travel the world in 1 day by going to different areas. They will visit Africa, Asia, the Amazon, Australia. Zoom Miami consists of 340 developed acres with more than 3,000 animals and over 1,200 plants and trees. Now I'm going to skip over this, because by that, it was very concise. Now we're just glancing. I think that's what people do. Wings of Avery. uh, barbecue, so that sticks out. An aquarium sticks out, and Play World Playground. Now, I will say I've been there a few times, and if you're local in Miami, you can get a year pass, and that way you can go and take advantage of those playstations that they have, especially the water zones. Really fun for kids. It's a general admission ticket, lunch basket, and a drink if option selected. That's nice to have. And then what I want to do is open in a new tab. And what I'm doing is I want to look at where it's at, because a lot of times people don't realize where these activities are being based upon. Now, so if we come here, this is South Beach, all the way up to the right, that's South Beach. This is downtown Miami. It is pretty far south compared to what you might be looking at. So just make sure that you plan accordingly, because it's a little distance away, and sometimes this traffic in Miami could be up to an hour and a half. So just keep that in mind when you're making plans for this activity. Now, the next thing I want to cover is bring your driver's license, what's not allowed: food and drinks, bikes, pets, and smoking. Now is the fun part that I always like to kind of just give feedback on the negative comments, because sometimes I don't think the negative comments are always fair for the vendors, and I like to comment about that. So I immediately just go to the 1-star reviews, and I like to see what's being talked about negatively and give my own take on that. There was a bad experience, not animals in the zoo. Everywhere was under construction. Now, sometimes, this was February 26th, sometimes there is construction. And I don't know if the park wouldn't be open if everywhere was under construction. So I'm not sure that is a good explanation. And then what does that mean in a couple months, in a couple days, in a couple months, when the construction's done? That negative review lasts there, and it puts the idea in people's heads that it's under construction. A lot of things, you want things to be refurbished, you want things to be painted. So I'm not sure. We see a few animals, although the zoo is large, and they do not seem in good health. They're very below a zoo like in France. Now, the Zoo Miami is one of the world-renowned zoos, and the Zoo and Aquariums Association always gets star reviews. So that a person is comparing it to somewhere else. And I don't think that's a fair comparison. And you could say that about any zoo, right? Maybe you don't like seeing the animals. Maybe they're hot. Maybe you're putting different things. So I don't know about these reviews. Very disappointed with the zoo. Visit on January 1st with the children. Many closures were closed. Few animals were present. The zoo cannot provide optimal service on January 1st. It must specify this or close the zoo that day. The price, however, was not reduced. Now, January 1st, I don't think a day of the week matters. And I'm going to look at one more because, I don't represent the zoo. So this is just my feedback. And when you go into these different zoos, it's always about the expectations that you put on these things. And so, and again, I'm not a zoo person. I don't work for the zoo, and I'm not trying to answer all their questions. I'm simply just trying to give feedback to what I think when I visit a zoo. Okay, so let's go to one more. The place looks neglected. We didn't see more than 5 animals. I honestly do not recommend it. It's a waste of time and money. I had very bad experience with my family visit Zoo Miami. The place is completely disappointing. Now, I totally disagree. I live close to Zoo Miami. I visited a lot of times, and there's so much to do other than it being a zoo of animals. And there's playgrounds for children. There's water areas for kids to play. There's so much more than just the zoo and the animals that this is not a fair review, in my opinion. Because when I bring my kids there on an annual pass, and I get to go there a lot, there's so many more things. We're not always visiting the zoo just to look at the animals. And so that's what I think, that these reviews are not fair for the vendors, just because a negative review visiting a zoo, not necessarily fair. And I would like to see all these, the Get Your Guide, Viator, all these travel things, consider time frames for zoos or have a way for them to get removed if something's been fixed or changed. But if it's a subjective opinion, I don't know if those reviews should last forever. And that is going to do it for our review of Zoo Miami's general admission ticket. If you like this feedback, please hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And what we'll do is we'll put a link in the description so you can buy this product. And if you're considering visiting Miami, we hope that you stop by Zoo Miami.